Welcome back. Welcome to the Premier Mindset by Premier Performance LLC. I'm your host, Trent Mailer, LCSW, licensed clinical therapist and performance coach, and this is episode 37. Most people think comfort is the goal, that once you reach a certain level of success, things should finally feel easy, steady, and predictable. But that's not the full picture. The truth is, comfort can quietly become a trap. The more we chase it, the smaller our range becomes. For high performers, the comfort zone doesn't just keep you safe, it keeps you stagnant. Comfort shows up everywhere. When you avoid hard conversations, skip new challenges that might expose weakness, or stick to routines that no longer stretch you. It can even hide inside your discipline, repeating the same habits, the same workouts, the same leadership moves because they feel familiar. But growth doesn't live in comfort, it lives in controlled discomfort. That edge where challenge meets capability and where real performance begins. Today we're breaking down the psychology of the comfort zone, why it feels so safe, how it limits high performers, and how to use discomfort strategically to expand your capacity without burning out. You'll learn how to regulate through discomfort, build resilience in the unknown, and rewire your relationship with challenge so pressure becomes your training ground instead of your breaking point. Quick note before we dive in. This podcast is for education and performance growth. It's not a replacement for therapy or medical treatment. If there's something you need, make sure you go get it. We're just trying to spread awareness and give you guys tools, point you guys in a direction, but if you need something, make sure you go get it. You can watch full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts as well. I'll also be sharing clips across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X, so hit subscribe or follow to catch every drop of new content. All the links are in the show notes, and we like to update that with new content every day, with new podcasts coming out every week. If you've ever felt like you're capable of more, but keep getting pulled back by comfort, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. What is the comfort zone? The comfort zone is a psychological and behavioral state in which an individual operates in an anxiety-neutral position, feeling secure, at ease, and in control of their environment. It is a mental space characterized by familiarity, routine, and minimal stress or perceived risk. The key characteristics are familiarity and predictability. The comfort zone consists of activities and situations a person knows well and can perform with little effort. It also comes with low anxiety. It is a space of minimal anxiety where one feels safe from perceived threats, which leads to stability, a sense of security or stability, which is essential for rest and recovery. And from a psychological perspective, the brain is wired for survival. Prioritizing safety and predictability to minimize the anxiety associated with the unknown is exactly what we're built to do. The comfort zone serves as a mental shortcut, allowing us to function efficiently without constantly evaluating risk. And this is a area that we do face as high achievers, is our brains are wired for survival, not for happiness, not for success. So to reach these levels of success or happiness, we have to actually do things that feel uncomfortable because it's not meant for the brain to work these ways. Our brain's goal is just to stay alive. So if we're going to do more than that, we're going to have to push ourselves and help ourselves get there. And sometimes that does include leaving the comfort zone. The illusion of safety. The comfort zone feels secure but quietly limits growth. The safety provided by the comfort zone is largely an illusion that over the long term limits personal growth, creativity, and resilience, potentially leading to stagnation and regret. While it offers short-term psychological ease, it secretly makes an individual more vulnerable to an unpredictable world. The human brain is naturally wired to seek predictability and minimize stress to conserve energy and avoid perceived threats, a process rooted in evolutionary psychology. The comfort zone satisfies this instinct by providing an environment of familiar routines and low anxiety. Within this zone, individuals feel in control of their environment because outcomes are predictable. The sense of mastery reinforces the idea of safety, even if the actual risk is low. When we avoid the discomfort of new challenges, the immediate relief reinforces the avoidance behavior, strengthening the belief that discomfort equals danger and the comfort zone is a safe haven. And this is one of the issues that happens with anxiety, is when anxiety pops up, our natural inclination is to avoid it, to get away from it. But sometimes doing that actually increases our anxiety because it tells ourselves that that was too much, that was too big, I can't handle that. The brain equates familiarity with survival, and this is why it resists discomfort. The brain equates familiarity with survival because its primary directive evolved over millennia is safety and energy conservation, not growth or happiness. Novelty and discomfort are perceived as potential threats. That's why we don't like change, leading to a strong resistance to stepping outside established patterns, even when those patterns are no longer beneficial. We prefer the pain that we know than the possibility of pain from the unknown. We choose predictability over new things, and that's because new things come with unknown. The comfort-discomfort spectrum. Comfort, then stretch, then panic. The comfort-discomfort spectrum is a model often attributed to Carl Renoke and based on the Yerkes-Dodson law that outlines 3 concentric zones of human experience. The comfort zone, the stretch zone, also called the learning or growth zone, and the panic zone. This model helps individuals understand where optimal performance and growth occurs, which is what we talk about quite often when we do talk about the Yerkes-Dodson law. The comfort zone is the innermost circle, characterized by security, familiarity, and a lack of stress or perceived threat. It feels safe, relaxed, at ease, stable, maybe even bored or unchallenged. And activities are typically routine tasks, everyday habits, interactions with familiar people, doing what you already know how to do. It is essential for rest, reflection, and recovery, but staying here too long leads to stagnation and a lack of development. So the comfort zone is important. We need to be in it, but if we live in the comfort zone, that's when the problems start to come. The stretch zone, the learning zone, lies just outside the comfort zone. This is an area where the true personal growth and learning occur. The individual faces manageable challenges that push their limits but do not overwhelm them, leading to feelings of mild tension, alert, nervous excitement, feeling alive, willing to risk, feeling challenged, or even motivated. It could be taking on new projects, public speaking for the first time, learning a new skill, or meeting new people. It typically leads to skill development, increased confidence, enhanced resilience, adaptability, and an expansion of one's own capabilities. The goal is to spend time in this zone, gradually expanding the comfort zone to include formally stretchy activities, so we can continue to expand and grow that comfort zone, making more and more feel comfortable. The panic zone lies beyond the stretch zone. In this state, the individual is overwhelmed by the challenges that far exceed their current abilities or support systems, leading to high anxiety and a feeling of lost control. This can lead to feelings of being scared, distressed, overwhelmed, highly anxious, frustrated, a sense of drowning, or even an interaction with the fight, flight, or freeze system. These include activities that are tasks that are too hard or imposed without adequate preparation or support. They're too far out there. They're too hard for us to do right now. And that usually leads to learning shutdowns, which can be followed by performance declines, and the individual often retreats immediately to their comfort zone to try and recuperate from being in that panic zone. The model emphasizes the optimal performance occurs with the moderate level of pressure in the stretch zone, while too little or too much with the comfort or panic zone hinders growth and effectiveness. Finding the right balance and incrementally stepping into the stretch zone is key to healthy development. And if you're able to do it on a daily basis, you will see things in your life change. So don't push yourself too far, but don't push yourself too little either. The neuroscience of change. Discomfort signals adaptation. In neuroscience, the feelings of discomfort is an essential signal for adaptation because it indicates to the brain that the existing maps and pathways for navigating the world are insufficient for the current situation. This tension between prediction and reality stimulates neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections and pathways, which helps us learn new things. So this is huge because something we got to keep in mind is discomfort comes with learning, with growing. You can't learn or grow without discomfort because it actually signals to the brain we need to learn new things now, and it starts the process. So we have to go through discomfort to grow and change. A lot of people avoid discomfort or look at discomfort as an enemy or a bad thing, but it's not. It's just a signal for growth. Discomfort is the currency of transformation. Discomfort is the tool that shapes our potential, the necessary pressure needed to develop our capabilities. It is challenging feelings It is the challenging feeling that signals we are moving beyond what is easy and comfortable. We exchange short term ease and predictability for the deeper, lasting value of personal growth. Nervousness and effort we experience are investments. We give up immediate comfort to build long term strength and resilience. This challenge is essential for building a life that continues to evolve and adapt. The comfort loop does create problems for us, and it can lead to performance plateaus. The comfort loop is a psychological cycle where the brain prioritizes repetition and predictability to feel safe, which eventually leads to performance plateaus or stagnation by inhibiting neuroplasticity and growth. The cycle works first with the starting point, which is repetition. Engaging in the same tasks, routines, and situations repeatedly creates strong, efficient neural pathways in the brain. The brain loves this because it uses minimal energy and reduces the need for conscious effort. This leads to predictability, the perceived safety. The repetition makes outcomes predictable. The brain equates this predictability with safety and control, lowering anxiety levels in response. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, stays quiet, reinforcing the belief that the current environment is secure. The performance plateau, the consequence. Because the brain is no longer encountering novelty, challenge, or uncertainty, the learning centers effectively shut down. Neuroplasticity is inhibited, meaning new connections and skills are not being formed or strengthened. The individual stops adapting, and their performance, creativity, and development hit a plateau or even decline over time. So we want to break that cycle. The comfort loop feels good in the short term but is detrimental to the long-term growth. Breaking the cycle requires intentionally introducing small, manageable challenges, moving into the stretch zone to stimulate the brain and encourage adaptation. By reframing discomfort as a signal for growth, individuals can move from stagnation to continuous learning and expansion. So we have to push ourselves to do the things that feel uncomfortable, and it's not going to feel good. If you're waiting for it to feel good, it's not coming. The feel good comes later. You have to push into the discomfort and see what happens. Now let's talk about why your nervous system confuses comfort with safety and how to retrain it. The difference between rest and comfort. The key difference between rest and comfort, with comfort being as avoidance in this situation, lies in their underlying intention and their outcome. Rest is an intentional, proactive act of restoration that replenishes energy and promotes well-being, while comfort, when used as an avoidance strategy, is a reactive escape from discomfort that leads to stagnation and can increase anxiety in the long run. Rest is necessary. Rest is a vital component of a healthy, productive life. It is not about doing nothing, but rather engaging in activities that genuinely allow for the physiological and psychological systems to recover and recharge. Our intention is to restore energy, recover from effort, integrate experiences, and maintain overall well-being. It usually leaves us feeling rejuvenated, more focused, resilient, and ready to re-engage with challenges. It builds capacity and supports growth. The feelings that come along with it are typically peacefulness, intentional, restorative, and present. An example of this is a good night's sleep, mindful relaxation, engaging in a fulfilling hobby, taking a walk in nature, or having a non-judgmental conversation with a loved one. Comfort, on the other hand, which is more avoidance, occurs when it becomes a default mode and an escape from life's necessary challenges. It becomes a trap or an addiction that hinders development. The intention is to escape from fear, stress, or the discomfort associated with the challenge, uncertainty, or growth. It is a reactive survival response. And this usually leads to performance plateaus, stagnations, increased anxiety or guilt, and an erosion of resilience. It keeps a person stuck in the same emotional or behavioral patterns. Feelings, short term, are more relief. But you also tend to get guilt and anxiety long term as you start to think about it. You get complacency, you start to check out, or even start to numb things. An example would be oversleeping to avoid responsibility, endless scrolling on social media as a distraction, or settling for good enough instead of pursuing a dream career. Now let's talk about why high performers often confuse comfort with stability or control. High performers often confuse comfort with stability or control due to a deeply ingrained need for predictability, mastery, and efficiency, which are core drivers of their success, but also creates blind spots. Here's why the confusion happens. High performers achieve success by mastering specific skills and environments. Once they have achieved mastery, the associated comfort of predictable success can be mistaken for sustainable stability. They are in control within their established domain, and this competence feels secure. High performers prioritize efficiency. When a task becomes easy and comfortable, it signals high efficiency. The brain equates this efficiency with an optimal state, blinding them to the need for new learning or adaptation, which would temporarily reduce efficiency. For many high performers, their identity is tied to their output and achievements. Staying with the comfort loop guarantees a certain level of performance, providing a continuous sense of control and validation. Stepping into the unknown, the stretch zone, introduces a risk of failure, which threatens that core identity. Operating in a highly predictable environment creates a strong but often false sense of control over outcomes. This illusion is comforting as it minimizes perceived risk, but they confuse this localized control with broader stability, failing to recognize that true long-term stability in a changing world requires flexibility and continuous adaptation. There's also a fear that slowing down, resting, or changing direction might lead to losing their competitive advantage. They confuse the energy of doing with actual progress, making them avoid genuine rest or challenging new pathways. Achieving goals releases dopamine, reinforcing the behaviors that led to success. This creates a loop where familiar, successful actions are prioritized, and the comfort derived from their predictable successes is mistakenly labeled as a healthy, stable state. In short, the very traits that make them high performers, discipline, control, and efficiency, can also create a powerful blind spot, leading them to misinterpret a comfortable plateau as a secure foundation, which is why reflection is so important and why we need to be honest when we're reflecting to make sure we see where we're at. And sometimes we got to check in with other people because sometimes we just don't see it. Comfort, at the end of the day, is emotional avoidance, using busyness, habits, or structure to dodge vulnerability. Comfort can be subtly misused as a sophisticated form of emotional avoidance, where individuals, often high performers, use busyness, rigid habits, and excessive structure to create a fortress against vulnerability, uncertainty, and difficult emotions. There are a couple mechanisms of emotional avoidance that occur via comfort. First one is busyness as a distraction. Constant activity serves as a powerful distraction. By ensuring their minds are always occupied with tasks, high performers avoid moments of quiet introspection where uncomfortable emotions like fear, self-doubt, or sadness might surface. The adrenaline rush of a busy schedule replaces the discomfort of emotional vulnerability. Another aspect is habits as an emotional firewall. While healthy habits are beneficial, when used as emotional avoidance, they become rigid rituals. Sticking to a strict routine provides a sense of control and predictability, acting as an emotional firewall against the inherent uncertainties of life. This creates a comfort loop that prevents facing the messy, unpredictable nature of human emotions. Going further with that, structure acts as a safety net. Imposing strict structure onto every aspect of life provides a perceived safety net. If everything is planned and controlled, there is less room for the unexpected, including unexpected or painful emotions. This confusion of structure with stability leads to resistance to adaptation. Performance is a shield. Focusing intently on external achievements and performance becomes a shield against internal emotional realities. The pursuit of success and the accompanying dopamine loop temporarily satisfies the need for validation and control, pushing aside deeper emotional needs or vulnerabilities. While comfort is great, discomfort is data. Your body and mind signal areas of needed growth when we're in discomfort. Discomfort can be reframed as valuable data or a feedback mechanism from your body and mind signaling precisely where new learning and growth are needed. It's an internal compass that points towards areas of opportunity and undeveloped potential. Instead of an alert for danger, discomfort is a signal that current emotional or behavioral or cognitive maps are insufficient for the current situation. When you feel anxiety or tension about a new project, a social gathering, or a decision, it signals that you're entering a zone of uncertainty where you lack a predictable outcome. Your nervous system is flagging a knowledge gap. The need to build tolerance for ambiguity develop new skills for navigating uncertainty, or expand your social capacity happens in this growth area. Resistance and procrastination can show up. We talked about procrastination in past episodes. It signals a fear of failure or effort aversion. If we're looking at the data, it says a strong internal resistance or the urge to procrastinate often points to a task that the brain perceives as difficult, overwhelming, or high risk. It indicates a fear of not meeting expectations. So a way to grow would be the need to break tasks into smaller, manageable steps, challenging perfectionist tendencies, or building self-efficacy by tolerating effort. So helping us break through that procrastination or resistance that we're feeling so that we can get to the other side and keep working. Another aspect is boredom and apathy. It signals stagnation and underutilization. If we're looking at the data, persistent boredom isn't just a lack of stimulation, it's a signal that your current environment and tasks are no longer challenging enough for your skills. You've hit a performance plateau and are operating entirely within your comfort zone. So to grow, there's a need to seek novelty, take on more complex challenges, or explore new interests and passions that align with your capabilities. For vulnerability and emotional exposure, it signals deeper connection and authenticity. Looking at the data, feelings of vulnerability when considering opening up to someone or setting a boundary signal a fear of rejection or emotional pain. This is discomfort from deep human connection. So the growth is the need to practice authenticity, develop emotional courage, and build trust in relationships. And we got to also define personal boundaries to make sure we keep ourselves safe. We have to retrain our interpretation of these things. It's very easy to look at them one way and continue to look at them one way. We need to be able to change it up and looking at them different. By changing the narrative around discomfort from stop, danger ahead to pay attention, growth opportunity here, you can consciously use these feelings as a guide for personal and professional development. It is the body's internal notification system for necessary adaptation. Comfort kills innovation. Leaders who stay too consistent stop evolving. We think consistency is great, we think getting to a comfortable place is great, and these things are good. But if that's all we're doing all of the time, it's going to cause problems. All of life is about balance. We can't do anything too much. We have to balance things out. That includes comfort, that includes innovation, that includes pushing ourselves. Comfort kills innovation because it fosters complacency, efficiency over exploration, and cognitive rigidity, traits that are fundamentally opposed to the adaptability required for novel solutions. Leaders who stay too consistent, operating within their established comfort zones, effectively stop evolving their businesses, and themselves. An issue that occurs for leaders is familiarity within your team can prevent tough accountability. In leadership, comfort and familiarity with your team can become a significant barrier to accountability, creating an environment where a desire for harmony and a fear of conflict override the necessity for true, tough conversations and clear consequences. This leads to the illusion of kindness. Leaders often confuse the avoidance of conflict with kindness or building a positive team culture. However, true kindness in leadership is about caring enough about an employee's long-term development and the team's collective success to have the difficult conversation. When poor performance persists because a leader is uncomfortable addressing it, they unintentionally signal that mediocrity is acceptable, which harms top performers, erodes morale, and silently endorses subpar behavior. There's a few different ways familiarity undermines accountability. One is the fear of damaging relationships. As relationships deepen, the stakes of conflict feel higher. Leaders feel that pointing out deficiencies will damage the personal relationship they have built with the team member. Overfamiliarity can also lead to an appearance of bias or preferential treatment, making it harder to enforce the same standards across the team. This can undermine the leader's authority and create resentment across team members. Tough accountability conversations are inherently uncomfortable. They involve risk and emotional exposure for both parties, leading to discomfort. And if we're avoiding discomfort and we get trapped in that comfort loop, it leads to a path of least resistance, which in this is avoidance to protect our own feelings of ease. And we don't do the things we need to do. Things fall through the cracks. Another aspect is fuzzy roles and expectations. This occurs due to a desire to avoid being perceived as micromanaging. Some leaders may err on the side of not providing enough clarity on roles and expectations. This ambiguity makes it nearly impossible to hold anyone accountable when things go wrong, as the goals were never clearly defined in the first place. But there are some strategies for balancing connection and accountability. To build a high-performing team, leaders must balance the need for connection with the necessity of clear, firm accountability. So we want to prioritize clarity over comfort. We have to establish clear expectations, roles, and desired outcomes from the outset. When expectations are clear, accountability conversations are less of a shock and more about addressing facts. We have to lead by example. Hold yourself to the same high standards you expect from your team members. When leaders demonstrate their own accountability, it builds trust and sets a powerful example for the entire team. We have to frame accountability as growth. We frame accountability as an opportunity for development rather than punishment or blame. Focus on problem solving. What went wrong and how can we fix it, rather than accusation. We also have to foster peer accountability. Encourage a culture where team members feel safe and empowered to provide constructive feedback to each other. When accountability is a shared team value, the leader is not the sole source of discipline, and it leads to more feedback and better talks. We also want to develop confidence in difficult conversations. Leaders should seek training or mentorship on how to have tough conversations effectively. The more skilled a leader becomes in managing conflict constructively, the less daunting it becomes. Ultimately, effective leadership requires the courage to step outside the comfort zone and address issues head-on, ensuring both the well-being of the individual employees and the success of the organization. If we try and stay in the comfort zone too long, it can also lead to decision fatigue, which is going to get in the way of us making the decisions we need to make to be successful in life. Staying safe through constant risk avoidance leads to severe decision fatigue and drains the mental bandwidth because the nervous system is in a persistent low-grade state of alert, continuously monitoring for potential threats so it can avoid them. This constant vigilance consumes vast amounts of cognitive energy, leaving fewer resources for important decisions, creativity, and problem solving. This also occurs specifically with athletes. Comfort zone in athletics. Predictable routines limits adaptability in competition. It's very common for athletes to get into the zone of doing things that just feel good, things that they've done before. We have a lot of routines, a lot of predictability that we stick with. It's staying in the comfort zone in athletics by relying on predictable routines will severely limit that adaptability in competition. While comfort provides foundational skills, an over-reliance on the familiar fails to prepare an athlete's nervous system for the inherent chaos, pressure, and unexpected variables of real game situations, which can lead to performance degradation when confronted with novelty. In a competition, there's too much happening, there's too much chaos to try and control it all and have it all work in predictable routines. So yes, we can have some predictability to create some comfort in it, to create some stability, but especially when you stick to it too much, it starts to limit things. We have to be willing and able to adapt. We can't just be rigid. It's not going to lead to anything good. You have to be flexible. Another aspect of this is the danger of performing at 80% because it feels smooth. This happens for a lot of athletes. The danger of performing at 80% because it feels smooth. For athletes, consistently performing at 80% because it feels smooth is dangerous because it prioritizes comfort over challenge, leading to stagnation, a lack of adaptability under pressure, and a shrinking capacity for peak performance. By training in the comfort zone, the body and mind are not adequately prepared for the moderate yet critical stresses of competition. If we get stuck in the smooth at 80% rule, it creates performance plateaus. The brain adapts to consistent stimuli. If an athlete always trains at 80% effort, their body will reach a plateau and no longer be challenged to grow. True progress and personal best are achieved in the stretch zone, which requires moving beyond what feels comfortable. When training in consistently smooth and predictable ways, the nervous system becomes rigid. In a game, An athlete who has only ever practiced predictable movements will struggle to adapt when faced with unexpected variables, such as a different opponent, a shift in momentum, or a change in the weather. An athlete who avoids the manageable stress of pushing their limits in practice is not equipped to handle the high stakes pressure of competition. The nervous system, unaccustomed to the true stress, can overreact, pushing the athlete into the panic zone where performance degrades and decision making falters. And that's where things go real bad and we start to blow things up in ways that takes a lot more work to build things back. And that's also part of the work we do at Premier Performance, is helping you guys not get to that point. So if you have issues falling into that point, let us know and we can work through that together. And while this does happen a lot with athletes, it also happens with business too. So there is a comfort addiction in business, sticking to what works even when it stops growing results. Comfort addiction in business occurs when organizations and leaders stick rigidly to strategies, processes, and products that have worked in the past, even after the results stop growing. Think about it out there, just how many companies are still doing things that aren't working anymore because it used to work at some point. This resilience on the familiar creates an organizational comfort zone that prioritizes the illusion of stability over the necessity of innovation and adaptation, ultimately leading to stagnation and irrelevance. One aspect of this is the sunk cost fallacy and how it plays and interacts with familiarity. Businesses often continue investing in established practices not because they're the best options, but because they have already invested significant resources, sunk costs, and they are familiar. The sunk cost fallacy is we put time, effort, energy into things, and because we've already put that effort and energy into it, we want to put more into it. We don't want to back off and just accept that it was a failure and it didn't work out. So we have this idea that I've put so much into it, I need to keep putting more into it. The predictability of current operations feels safer than the financial and strategic risks of venturing into new unfamiliar markets or processes. An addiction to comfort means an addiction to predictability, and that could be predictable quarterly results, even if those results are stagnant. Leaders become hesitant to experiment with potentially disruptive ideas that might depress short-term performance but are necessary for long-term exponential growth. Sometimes we'll just accept what we have, even if it's not where we want to be, because we're worried that if we change things, we will actually lose what we have. But we have to be willing to change. We have to try new things. We have to try new solutions to reach the long-term growth we need, because growth comes from change. Growth comes from doing things different. Success in the past can lead to organizational complacency. Leaders and teams become so accustomed to the current model that they develop blind spots to changing market dynamics, emerging competitors, and evolving customer needs. They miss early warning signs because their focus is internally on executing the familiar instead of better understanding the market or what's going on. So we have to be aware of these things because it is very easy to get caught in it. Going back to athletes for a second, there are ways to train discomfort tolerance, and we can do this through business as well. It's not just for athletes, but athletes tend to do it the most and you kind of see it the most. But you can do some of these same things for business as well. So elite athletes intentionally train for discomfort tolerance using specific techniques to simulate competition stress and expand their capacity to perform outside their comfort zones. They recognize that familiarity fosters stagnation and limits adaptability when faced with the unexpected pressures of high-stakes competition. Some techniques for training discomfort tolerance. One is cold exposure and physiological stress. Athletes use deliberate physical stressors to train their nervous system's response to discomfort. This teaches the body to manage the shock and stress of unexpected physical or environmental changes encountered in competition. One way to do this is through ice baths and cold plunges. Submerging the body in cold water causes a physiological stress response, such as rapid breathing, increased heart rate, and pain, that an athlete must learn to consciously manage and breathe through. This trains the mental discipline to remain calm and focused during physical discomfort. The other side of that is heat training and altitude training. Training in extreme heat or high altitudes pushes the body to its physiological limits, same but in just a different way, forcing it to adapt and build resilience to challenging environmental conditions that might be encountered during specific events. Another aspect of this is visualization and mental rehearsal. We've talked about visualization multiple times before. We have a whole episode in the past about visualization. Visualization trains the mind to cope with the pressure and uncertainty of competition before it even happens, creating a mental comfort zone for difficult situations. We're kind of preparing yourself for it. You can do this in pressure rehearsals. Athletes mentally rehearse every possible scenario, including making mistakes, losing, facing difficult opponents, and managing the anxiety of high stakes situations. This discomfort rehearsal helps desensitize the nervous system to those stressors when they occur in reality. Visualization is used to practice positive self talk and breathing techniques during moments of high stress, creating positive, strong neural pathways to override the body's panic response. Because if we get into that panic response, we're losing control and now things are just happening and we're reacting. So if we can keep things regulated, we can help give ourselves control over the situation. We can do this with pressure reps and competitive simulation. To avoid the comfort loop of smooth, easy practice, elite athletes intentionally introduce pressure to the variability and variability into their training regimes. You see this with game day scenarios. Coaches create practice situations with simulated game day pressure, including high stakes, penalties for failures, or a live audience. This moves training into the stretch zone rather than the comfort zone. So that could be practicing things with simulated crowd noise. That could be running through a 2-minute drill. That could be running through a certain situation at the end of a match. Whatever it is, it's just going through these situations or scenarios in the moment, so that when the real life situation does occur, you're feeling already ready for it and it feels more like your comfort zone than a panic zone. We also got to change things up with practice. Instead of repeating the same drill perfectly at 80% effort, athletes practice a wide variety of skills in randomized order to force the brain to adapt, make quick decisions, and maintain flexibility. You may even feel this with your own workouts at the gym. If we keep doing the same things over and over again, we start to stagnate. So we have to change things up. Change is needed. And as we go, we're going to face better and better opponents. Regularly competing against better opponents forces an athlete out of their comfort zone and into situations where they're not guaranteed to win, building tolerance for failure and the necessity for strategic adaptation. So we have to get better and be able to manage these things so we can face better opponents. The edge of mastery, balancing comfort, which is stability, with discomfort, which is expansion. Elite performance and personal development exist at the edge of mastery, a dynamic balance between the stability provided by comfort and essential expansion driven by discomfort. Mastery is not about the elimination of discomfort, but rather the intentional use of stable foundation, comfort, as a launch pad for measured ventures into the challenging stretch zone or discomfort. If we get stuck in comfort, it leads to missed opportunities, slow innovation, and a lack of emotional resilience. Staying with the familiar minimized risks, but it maximized missed chances. This applies both personally, failing to apply for a dream job, avoiding meaningful relationships due to fear of vulnerability, and professionally, hesitating on new markets, avoiding strategic pivots. The safety is an illusion. The opportunity cost of inaction is often far greater than the risk of failure. And sometimes we just don't fail. We just get scared of it. Slow innovation. Comfort fosters complacency and efficiency over exploration. For leaders and businesses, this means sticking to what works even when results plateaus, that comfort addiction. This cognitive rigidity leads to a failure to question the status quo, which ultimately slows or halts innovation and leaves the organization vulnerable to disruption by more adaptive competitors. Going further, it leads to emotional resilience and the lack of it. Resilience is built by navigating and recovering from challenges and discomfort. By avoiding manageable stress, individuals fail to train their nervous system to handle adversity. When real-world problems or unexpected pressures inevitably arise, the individual lacks the emotional and mental tools to cope effectively, often leading to performance degradation or retreat into a debilitating panic zone. In essence, the greatest danger of comfort is not the state itself, but the stagnation it brings. Acknowledging these costs highlights the necessity of intentionally stepping into discomfort, using it as data and a signal for areas of needed growth, to build resilience, seize opportunities, and foster continuous innovation. One way we can do that is by building tolerance for discomfort through mindfulness and body awareness. Building tolerance for discomfort is a crucial skill that can be developed through mindful practices that retrain the nervous system to distinguish between actual danger and the benign tension of growth. By becoming more aware of bodily sensations, individuals can learn to manage their stress response and expand their capacity for challenge. Mindfulness involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment, which helps de-escalate the brain's automatic fight or flight response to discomfort. We can do this through non-judgmental observation. When a feeling of discomfort arises, like tension, rapid heartbeat, or nervousness, observe it purely as a sensation rather than immediately labeling it as bad or dangerous. This creates a crucial pause, preventing a spiral into panic. We then want to focus on our breath. Deep, slow, rhythmic breathing is a direct way to signal safety to the nervous system by activating the parasympathetic response via the vagus nerve. Going further, we can do body scans. A body scan is a meditative practice that involves paying attention to different parts of the body sequentially. This practice builds a heightened awareness of where tension or discomfort is held physically, making it easier to address in real time. And something we can do to look out for these traps is by recognizing comfort triggers, like language, behaviors, or even avoidance patterns. Identifying the specific triggers that push an individual back into their comfort zone is the first step towards building discomfort tolerance. These triggers manifest in our language, behaviors, and avoidance patterns. The words we use often betray our subconscious desire for comfort and safety. I can't, or that's too hard. This language signals a fixed mindset that views challenge as insurmountable threats rather than growth opportunities. I always do it this way. This phrase is a powerful indicator of cognitive rigidity and a strong preference for the familiar, even if the way is no longer effective. It's fine or I'm fine. This can be dismissive language used to avoid difficult conversations, emotional vulnerability, or acknowledging that something is not working as expected. We've tried that before. This immediately shuts down innovation and exploration by focusing on past failures rather than future possibilities. So be aware of some of those language triggers. Going into the behavior triggers, specific actions or inactions often reveal a retreat into comfortable routine. One is procrastination. Delaying a difficult task in favor of easier familiar activities is a classic comfort-seeking behavior. Micromanagement. In leadership, this behavior can stem from a fear of losing control or dealing with uncertainty, prompting the leader to retreat into a comfortable but inefficient micromanaging routine. Avoiding new projects. Consistently volunteering for the same roles or tasks that one has already mastered indicates a reluctance to engage in the learning zone. Distraction or numbing behaviors. Relying on food, social media, or other distractions to avoid introspection or difficult emotions uses comfort as an emotional anesthetic. And then we also have avoidance patterns. These are the overarching strategies used to create a fortress against vulnerability. One is a busyness as a shield. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Maintaining a perpetually busy schedule to avoid quiet time where uncomfortable emotions might surface. Sometimes we're just in the go, go, go mode that we never actually feel what's going on. The comfort loop of efficiency. Sticking to highly efficient, predictable routines even when they stop yielding growth results, confusing efficiency with progress. And focusing on safety over growth. Prioritizing the illusions of safety over the necessary discomfort of adaptation, which ultimately limits resilience and long-term success. The paradox of growth is that real comfort comes after discomfort, not before it. And sometimes we're waiting for that comfort before we start. The paradox of growth is a fundamental truth of human development. Genuine, lasting comfort and stability are the results of successfully navigating discomfort and challenge, not conditions that exist before or in the absence of them. What being comfortable, being uncomfortable actually means. It's one of my favorite sayings. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable does not mean feeling the discomfort goes away. Instead, it is a sophisticated and neurological and emotional skill that focuses on the capacity to tolerate and manage the sensations of tension and uncertainty without activating the panic zone threat. It's the ability to act effectively despite the presence of emotional stress, so that it's not that we're just feeling comfortable, it's that we're comfortable with the feelings of discomfort. So we want to push ourselves towards that discomfort, be in that stretch zone as you can, use the comfort zone to reset, recharge, get ready to put yourself back out there again. Be aware of the panic zone, but we got to keep pushing for the stretch zone. We can't just stick in the comfort zone. So a couple check-in questions to go over real quick for you guys to answer for yourself. What are you protecting yourself from right now? What is something you feel like you're avoiding, whether that be emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever it is? What are you protecting yourself from right now? Write that down for yourself. Be honest. Reflect with yourself. What is happening right now? Where do you feel that resistance, and what does that resistance teach you? In that situation, what is causing that resistance from acting? Is that a fear of failure? Is that a fear of how it's going to go? Is it a fear of vulnerability? Like, what is it? What is holding you back? And what will that resistance teach you as you go through it? Let's try and look at it in a productive lens, a productive light. And then the last question to ask yourself is this rest or is this retreat? Am I actually truly recharging right now because I'm burnt out, burnt down, whatever it is? Or am I running from this thing? We got to honestly look at this and understand, what am I doing? Because the better you understand, the more we can do it, the more we can deal with it. Recognition is the first step. So unless we understand why we're doing what we're doing and what's happening, it's going to be really hard to change things. So write those things down, reflect on it a little bit, check in on yourself, send those answers to me because I love hearing what you guys say and what you're thinking. And I'd love to help you guys with checking in on these things if you feel like you're running into any issues and you're not sure how to go about it. So let me know where you're at. Resilient minds, premier results. We are building you guys up with the right mindset so that you can put out the performance you want to put out, whether it's in your business, it's in athletics, it's in your own personal life. We have to build up the mindset to perform at these high levels, because without the mindset, we will fall flat. Share this episode with anyone you think could benefit from this. If you know people that are sticking in their comfort zone out of fear or out of feelings like they can't get out of it, send this episode to them and see what they think. They might really gain something from it. It might show them something they never thought of before. But be willing to share it with somebody that you think is going to benefit from it, because our goal is just to get this into more people's minds so they can do what they need to do to be successful in life. And if you found help or a benefit from it on your own, make sure to leave us a review. Reviews really help us out so we can spread the awareness of this, get this in front of more people, and just keep expanding our reach. So make sure to leave reviews and let us know how these things are going. We love hearing from you guys. I make it a point to give you actionable tools to find success in your life. So let me know if it's helping. I love staying connected with you all. So just reach out to me and let me know how things are going, whether it's success or failure or anything in between. I just want to know how it's going. I want to check in with you guys. I want to help out. But I can't do that if you guys don't reach out to me. So let me know what's going on. I'd love to hear from you. The people I have talked to already, it's been great, and I enjoy checking in on these things. But, I want to check in with more of you guys too, so make sure to reach out. And if you do want to reach out, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can email me at tmailer@premierperformancereno.com. My last name is spelled Mahler. You can text or call me directly at 775-561-0056. We have the Instagram and the TikTok with the same name, which is premier_performance_Reno for both of those. We have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page with the same name, which is Premier Performance LLC for both of those. And then the Twitter or the X account, which is at Premier Reno LLC. And finally, our website, www.premierperformancereno.com. So check all those things out. Get involved in these communities. We're continuing to grow them, and we're going to continue to put out new things on all of them as well. We're going to keep going with this stuff. We have new content coming out every day, new podcast episodes coming out every week. Next week, we're going to jump into staying motivated, how to do it, how to keep yourself going and keep that momentum moving, especially when things get hard. It is easy to get the momentum going at the beginning, but after a while, it tends to fall off. How do we keep it motivated? How do we keep ourselves going? That's what we're getting into next. So go be the best you can. Put yourself out there. Get into that stretch zone and see how it builds you up. Do something you're scared of. See how it goes. Don't beat yourself up when you fail. Build yourself back up and then keep trying. If there's anything you need, reach out, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon.